Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us on that little bit of a break. We are coming back on day 3 of the 2025 Scrabble Players Championship, organized by NASPA, coming at you live from Baltimore, Maryland. Once again, I'm Charles Reinke, joined by Elise Bickford.
Hi, Charles.
So we've got a little bit of a fun thing we're going to do with you all in chat here. We know this is the Collins Lexicon. Collins attracting players from all over the world, not just North America. If you want to put in the chat where you're watching from, maybe what time of the day it is there, because I don't understand time zones. We want to know if you're sacrificing your personal health, your professional health, your family life to be watching this at 4 in the morning. We want to know about it. So in the chat, put where you're from. If it's somewhere weird, all the better. Meanwhile, we've got a great game coming up for you here. We've got first place Alec Sjoholm versus second place Samson Okosagah. This should be a great game.
Yeah, both of these players have been putting up really great performances. You know, they've been at the top of the pack pretty much the whole tournament, and now they're going head to head. So I really can't wait to see what happens here.
So we see Alec actually losing his last 3 games, but still in first place at 14-5. We know he lost kind of a heartbreaker on stream to Dennis Akekarigor, but he also lost his last game to Asim Khatri. Meanwhile, Sammy, looking at 5 straight wins, maybe even more than that, goes off the screen, at least looking to make it 6. We're going to get ready to start here. We're going to get scores reset. This is going to be a great game.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see what unfolds.
We always appreciate Alec for his very diligent tile drawing, making sure that he's not doing anything improper. I think that is the perfect way to draw tiles. First tile out of the bag, or at least pretty close to the first tile out of the bag for him, being the blank. It's going to be slowed down by the rest of these consonants, but it's honestly, at least it's a real breath of relief to draw a blank so early in this game.
Yeah, I love to see a blank on an opening rack. It just gives you a little bit of security. So I think he's probably going to play something like Vox pretty quickly, just offloading his X and his V and keeping things moving.
Yep, this seems like a pretty standard play. If he wanted to get a little bit weird, he could have played Klaxon using the blank, but since that actually doesn't double the X, it's only 42 points. So 42 points is nice, but not worth it here. When you're a player like Alec, who's got very, very deep bingo knowledge, the blank with the K at the same time, it actually feels like his outcomes with the blank and the K together are better than if you just had an assortment of 1-point consonants. So I like this idea. Meanwhile, Sammy, he's drawn the F and the V together. That's never fun. He's going to have to try to figure out how to get out from this. Something like 5 under Vox seems like a pretty reasonable idea.
Yeah, another option that's simming well is just fib under. It keeps 2 E's, but it gets rid of that B with the F, which is not an excellent tile. I think both of those are good choices here.
Yeah, it does do something different to the board. Fib versus 5. 5 opens up the triple somewhat recklessly for 5-letter plays, whereas Fib keeps things nice and tight. And it's only down by 2 points after that, so basically an even game on a really an exceptionally tight board. If you don't have an S or a T, it's really hard to hook things for bingos. In certain situations, Alec's best play might just be something down from the B, depending on how bad his letters are. So this is a kind of a nice board control play. Sammy's sort of waiting to see how this game develops.
Yeah, I like this little bit of defense from Sammy here.
And we do see that Alec does not have playable bingos despite his blank. The H and the K and the 2 A's, it honestly feels like there could be anywhere between 0 and 50 Maori words, native New Zealander words. But those are very hard to keep track of. And it does turn out that Alec doesn't have any of them on this turn.
No, and he actually doesn't have any 8s with this rack either. So as you know, promising as it might look, there isn't that much here. So he's going to have to find something else. Yeah, what would you be looking to do here, Charles?
Something under the B of fib feels called for here. He can't really do anything through the X to score points. So if he did something like oak, OAK, forks the board a little bit, sets up oaks, also sets up bingo spots under BO. Downside is it really opens a juicy double spot, opens up an easy a spot for Sammy to score points. So yeah, now that I'm thinking about it a little bit more, this feels considerably safer. Still could get hit a little bit on that double word score, but not as bad as oak or oka. So I like this idea from Alec, forking the board while being about as safe about it as he can be.
Yeah, I like this choice.
It's not going to work out, though. We've got a double coming back for Sammy,
Yeah.
and it's going to be a ton of points.
Yeah, I guess that's the downside of Ankh. You do open that dangerous double spot. You need something specific to hit it, but yeah, we see Sammy got exactly that.
Yeah, so I think Alec's play did have a lot of defensive merit. It just didn't happen to work out this time. Whereas a play that was a little bit more reckless, like Oka, actually would have prevented this specific situation from happening. That's kind of a trap some players fall into where they think if a play didn't work out in this specific situation, it was the wrong play. I think Ankh was probably more correct than Oka. It just happened not to work out in this situation. Also, what hasn't worked out in this situation is Alec's draw. He was drawing into OA blank and unfortunately drew 3 more vowels to go with that and the sort of unwieldy G.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I don't know, do you play something longer like Togue down to the triple, just opening space? Or would you keep things a little bit tighter just with a smaller fishing play here?
Yeah, the downside of a smaller fishing play is you're always going to be keeping sort of an unwieldy set of letters. Like if you're trying to play off GOU or something like that, it's just not going to be a good leave. Togue does a lot of things right. It keeps bingo spots open. He's drawing back into OA blank, which didn't work the first time, but will maybe work the second time. And he's scoring about as decently as he can hope for here. So I think a good idea by Alec to just go for Togue. Sammy has drawn the Q. There is a newly minted U on the board that might save him here. It will also, if he ends up going for quad, he kind of inadvertently starts playing a little bit of defense in all those new bingo lines as well. So this actually works out very well for Sammy, despite scoring only 18 points.
Yeah, I mean, you'd love to get more with your Q, but there aren't really options on this board. I think this is the best that he can do. And like you said, yeah, it's going to work out, I think, given that it blocks some of these floaters that Alec would love to play through.
Yeah, I actually don't see immediately if he had something through that E that was going to be a real heavy hitter. Looks like didn't really have anything. He had bingo through the E, but nothing that was going to hit a triple. The good news for Alec is that the spot of mortars making Ox was usually going to stay open. It has stayed open here, and that is actually his only bingo. So he's probably thinking, can I still bingo through that E, maybe starting with an E, underlapping quad. He's again, one of those players who does very well on the Aerolith blank bingo quizzes. I am constantly in awe of his scores, approaching 80 to 90% most days. So he doesn't struggle with blanks. I think he's quickly realizes that this is one of his few and actually his only playable bingo.
Yeah, nicely spotted by Alec here. And Sammy has a great draw here. Looks like he's going to have his choice of bingos to strike back.
Yeah, this rack actually makes a ton of 7-letter words. He's going to have to do some thinking to make sure he knows which ones play alongside mortars. In fact, none of them fit quite right on mortars. So he's going to have to move on from that specific spot. His highest scoring bingo will be through the O of mortars. That would be geraniol. But I would expect a little bit of time being taken on this turn by Sammy just to double check the 2-letter overlaps for all the 7 different 7-letter words that are in these letters.
Yeah, I would definitely be iterating through each of those possibilities here, because you would just love to get a nice bingo that is able to make some plays parallel to mortar. But yeah, unfortunately, there's nothing there.
Ooh, we actually see Sammy going for Geraniol relatively quickly. I guess his decision making for figuring out 7-letter words is made a little bit easier just by the fact that the R of mortar means that the E has to go in that position. So once he figures that out, there's not as many permutations as there would be otherwise. So a nice high probability find by Sammy. Definitely expect the players on the stream game to find those. It's not a guarantee, but this one's a pretty easy find for Sammy. And we're moving back over to Alec, who is now faced with, again, a bingo-sized deficit. That's kind of what usually happens when your opponent bingos on you is you have a bingo-sized deficit. He's drawn 1-point tiles, but they're all duplicated and they don't do a whole lot here. So Alec's probably going to be looking to play a few of these off.
Yeah, and would you be thinking about playing something like Trial next to Mortars, going to that L?
Yeah, that feels very strong here. It scores about as well as you can hope for with these 1-pointers. Gets rid of the duplicate A, the R, and the T all at once. And it keeps ART, which plays very nicely with all the E's that still remain in the bag. Plus, I guess all the I's that remain in the bag. We could easily see Alec getting a high probability bingo with his leave of ART. One small downside, I suppose, is that if he does draw a 7-letter word, it's not especially likely to fit on this board. Maybe the most likely thing for him after Trial would be bingos to the R of Trial. Otherwise, he'd have to be looking at getting his vowels in the right spot to go under or on top of Geraniol.
Yeah, that's a good point. If you're kind of hoping for a bingo, you want to make sure that it's going to be fitting on this board.
But I think that Trial is good enough. Trial or Trail, it's, I think, basically a wash. I don't see any extensions for either of those that would, differentiate them. I think he just has to go for good letters now, and then if he does have an exceptionally bingo-prone rack, just worry about opening something up maybe the next turn. So I think a good idea by Alec here. And we see Sammy with the second blank, but also 2 W's. It feels like a very strong position for Sammy here with the second blank and already sitting on a 50-point lead. It's just a very, very nice place to be.
He spots his bingo immediately, which is not an easy one. You don't usually think you're going to bingo with 2 W's, but...
Yeah, not to mention 2 W's and a Y. He is making the blank a Y in this situation. He has windway set up. There's a lot of strange way words in the dictionary. It can be hard to keep them all straight. A windway is apparently a passage for air. I guess we could have inferred that from the component words, but Sammy is going for it. We assume that the blank is a Y, and Alec's going to give it 5 extra points, I think, very reasonably.
Absolutely, I would definitely throw the nickel on this one.
So we do see, again, Challenge Computer running wordjudge.me, created by NSC organizer Art Moore. So thank you, Art, for doing that, and thank you, Josh Greenway, for setting up that challenge cam. We do see that play coming up good. So unlike last game where I neglected to give that the 5 extra points in my engine, I'm going to make sure I click the +5 button here, make sure I have the score correct, and we're back over to Alec.
I will do the same.
So Alec, I think, drew relatively decently. He's probably wishing that an E had been floated out in space for areolate. Unfortunately, there's no E. That's going to bail him out here. The play of quad earlier really restricted that E on the bottom. So a really tough decision for Alec, where he's definitely needing to draw. He's going to need to bingo soon and then bingo again after that. But he can't I think bingoing has to be his option here just because he's not going to score a lot of points on this turn otherwise. So probably looking at a fish here. Elise, do you see anything that you'd be looking to do?
Yeah, I mean, if he wants to get really aggressive, he could play something like a low to the W in Windway, just throwing that A out into space. Might be a little bit too desperate at this point. Maybe a slightly safer option could be something like or to the R in trail. So OAR, just opening another lane on top.
Yeah, that is a
Sorry.
good idea. I think opening up new spots should be a priority for Alec here. I think Aloe might be a little bit aggro here, although the score is pretty bad at this point. He's down by 140. He's probably down by 2 or almost 3 bingos at this point. So maybe a little bit of recklessness is called for here, but again, that feels a little bit maybe too reckless. So maybe something a little bit calmer would be justified here. I think it's totally okay for him to block the W of Windway. That's not really a good bingo spot. But blocking the N of Windway with like a possible fishing play feels a little bit, it feels like these letters have good synergy with the N, so maybe you'd want to leave that open. But as I say that, I did just notice there's another N of Geraniol, so maybe you don't mind too much if you end up blocking an N here.
Wow, and he goes with Tau, which after I generated more plays, this actually wins my simulation here.
Yeah, I think this is considerably safer than a low, which opens you up to huge counterplays involving a consonant hitting that double letter score. It's a little bit harder for Sammy to really punish this spot unless he has specific letters. We see he does have the H, which is one of the letters that could be used for the aforementioned punishment. Although it turns out here that Sammy just has a 60-point Z play. He might be looking to, yeah, I think this is wise. He's waiting a turn on the Z to get 47 points and block the triple. This is a really good idea, I think.
Yeah, I really like this play. Just biding your time, and you're still scoring a lot. You're getting 47 with the promise of scoring even more next turn with that Z.
Yeah, there's so many E's in the bag that Z next turn is almost guaranteed. It's extremely unlikely that Alec plays in that spot. So Sammy can basically wait as long as he wants to hit that Z. Sammy is giving up an easy triple on the top here with this play, but that's way easier to stomach than that looming triple with the T of Tau. So a slight downside there, but again, Alec is going to need multiple bingos at this point to come back in this one. I think we saw Alec briefly set up his own name, but that might have been accidental.
Oh, yeah. Unfortunate that he can't really play that here.
He is setting up Relace, which plays nicely on top. Unfortunately, also kind of sets him back in terms of bingoing. We see the pool looking a little bit vowel heavy with a lot of U's and I's in it. So it feels like a 6-tile draw into this pool could very quickly go south for him. Then again, he is scoring 38 points here, which he needs to keep scoring if he wants his multiple bingos to have any hope of keeping him in this game. So I see where he's coming from here.
Yeah, and if he didn't play there, Sammy probably would have hit back with a pretty big Z play up there. So you do kind of want to take out that spot. But yeah, it's hard when you would hope that you could get a bingo up there and not just a play that's only going to score you like 40, which is less than what you need.
Yeah, I think if Alec had not played there, Sammy would have something like phased for 92 starting at above the E of Phenom, which is even better than his ZA play that we're probably going to see here. So I think a wise decision by Alec to just take that spot for points because he knows Sammy's going to be looking to hammer it as soon as next turn.
Yeah, I agree.
So a nice play by Sammy here, pretty straightforward, but a nice play nonetheless. And this game is very out of hand for Alec at this point. He's down by almost 200 points. He has drawn, again, stuff that looks like a bingo. His post it wasn't a post bingo draw, but he did play 6 letters. His post 6 draw was actually very nice. He drew another set of bingo letters out of a pool that was more likely to hurt him than help him, but sadly does not have a playable bingo on this turn.
Yeah, this is so tough. I mean, it just looks like you should have something with these great tiles, but this board is pretty exhausted, and yeah, I'm not seeing ways to really claw back.
Yeah, I guess the saving grace is here he still has that AG spot under Windway where he can put an S or an E, or a bingo ending in ES making yes. Still has the T of Tau to work with. I feel like he would need to hit that spot, the AG spot, and the N of Geraniol sort of in sequence to pull this one out. And there's probably just not enough tiles left in the bag to do that. And certainly the tiles that are left in the bag probably also won't let him do that. So this one is, at this point, probably slipped away from Alec, and he's going to start thinking about damage control.
Yeah, and what would you do as damage control here? Are you trying to just use up that spot with Tau, the T? Is there anything that could extend to the triple? Do you want to play through the A and mortars? Or do you still want to kind of fish and maybe hope to hit a bingo next turn?
Yeah, I would probably be looking to fish here, maybe next to mortars, just to prevent Sammy from getting a big J play there or something like that. That spot's been open for a long time, like 5 turns, 6 turns. Feels like it's time to close that one down, unless Alec thinks maybe he can get a J play of his own in that spot, in which case he'd want to leave it open. I guess if I was in Alec's shoes, I would be very paranoid that I was missing a bingo. This rack feels very likely to yield a bingo through an N. It in fact doesn't, but it really looks like it does. I would be so paranoid, especially playing on stream, that I was missing something here. I would probably spend a lot of time verifying that I wasn't missing anything.
Yeah, me too. It just looks so promising, but I think he correctly is going to fish here and play AE.
Yeah, this actually does bingo with a lot of stuff in the bag. It bingos if you draw an I, you get Laertes. If you draw a U, you get Situle. So it works out fairly often. It actually is going to work out here because he drew the Y for Talias. Not sure exactly how to pronounce that one, but it is going to bingo. So that is a little bit of a relief for Alec to finally get a bingo out of these letters. But in the meantime, Sammy has scored very nice with Finder. It actually looks like he missed a 10-letter word on that turn. Maybe we'll just let chat think about that for a bit. If you see it, chat, you can shout it out. But with his rack of Findies, FDEFIINS, he had a playable 10-letter word.
That is absolutely stunning.
So we see Alex sitting on, he drew a Y after his fish. In the North American lexicon, this wouldn't have worked out for him, but in Collins it does. He can play it in 2 spots, but they're right next to each other under Windway. He's just grabbing the Y, though, which makes me a little bit concerned that he's not spotted this and is just going to immediately go to fish the Y. I hope he spends a little bit of time here, or he's just trying to trick us with his mannerisms.
Yeah, I hope so too. I mean, this is a pretty high probability word, so I would hope that he can find it. But, you know, these players know so many words and so many obscure words that I think sometimes the ones that at least I would consider easy can slip away.
Yeah, I'm definitely feeling that. Like you start learning some weird ones and the easy ones slip out. And I think paradoxically, the ones with weird letters are a lot easier to remember. Stuff like Talias just doesn't stick in mind as easily. I think Alec just saw it and he's kind of exhaling heavily, meaning he feels like he just almost made a huge error.
Yeah, he has it lined up now, so I expect it to come down.
Yeah, so that probably he probably was feeling a little bit down that Tailies or that he didn't have a bingo, but now he sees that it does in fact play. So some good composure from Alex to stick with it and make sure that he finds the bingo. It's not going to help him win this game, but spread does matter in this tournament. We see Sammy actually ahead by a fair amount on spread over Alec. So finding the bingos even in a loss game is very important.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Ooh, Sammy with a very nice little play. You don't see this word as a sixth very often. You see it more often as an eight in the plural form. Sammy going for Osiri, which is a bed of osiers, which I think is a plant of some sort. So a nice word here. I guess he's getting this game over with a lot quicker. The chances of Alec getting multiple bingos down at this point are pretty low, especially with the pool the way it was, with 3 U's unseen in addition to the J. It was very unlikely that Alec would be able to do much of anything. But Sammy's trying to get this one over with, so he makes a nice, long, high-scoring word.
Yeah, great find by Sammy.
So I think Alec, he's looking, there's one tile unseen. He could see maybe if there's something he could draw here, like if he plays off a letter and draws the E, which is the best bingo tile left in the bag, but it would have to involve the T or the A of Tailies in some way, and it feels a little bit hopeless at this point. So I kind of expect a longer play with designs of going out in 2 turns. I think he's setting one up here.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there's much that you can fish for here. You'd love to like have a one tile fish and then draw into an out bingo, but I'm having a hard time really seeing anything. So a play like build looks like it would be nice.
Yeah, that score is pretty decent. I guess if he wanted to give himself a little bit of upside with the S, he could do something like Z to set up Zs, which is kind of difficult for Sammy to deal with. That maybe that results in a slightly more successful endgame some of the time. Maybe it results in a better endgame if your opponent it doesn't know what you're setting up. But I think here I would probably prefer just playing off 5 tiles, hoping that you draw something that lets you go out. Alec is probably just iterating through the tiles in the bag and seeing what happens with his leave of CS with each one that he draws. And I think that would be how I wanted to end this game, just because I was probably tired of losing the whole time.
Yeah. And are there any spots for big J plays on this board? Like, is that something that you would be thinking about at this moment?
Yeah, the J spot that I see would be like on top of Geraniol. If you had an A or an O, you could hit there for a decent score. There's no A's or O's unseen. So the J actually isn't doing a whole lot. That could also be part of Alec's consideration here. I mean, he's probably thinking, what happens if I draw the J? Do I get J stuck? That would be a huge spread killer, to be stuck with an unplayable J while your opponent nickels and dimes you. But he's also thinking, should he be trying to stop Sammy from doing anything in specific with the J? I actually don't see anything too dangerous that Sammy could be threatening.
Yeah, me neither. But it's definitely something to consider, especially if you have 6 minutes. You want to make sure that you're not, losing spread points in any way.
Yeah, we do see Sammy only using about 8 minutes on his clock. So sort of like Rashid last game, who played the first 3/4 of the game extremely quickly and got his opponent into time trouble. Sammy kind of did the same thing here. The only difference is Alec didn't actually get into time trouble. Alec had enough sort of straightforward plays. They weren't winning plays in that they didn't lead him to the win, but he had some relatively easy decisions. So he's not really in time trouble at this point. So we see Alec drawing the P that will at least let him go out with like caps through the A of Geraniol. I actually haven't figured out if he has anywhere else to go. We'll see if Sammy has anything to do with the J here. I guess he does have to figure out where Alec's going on, then probably his first priority is just blocking Alec's outs if he only has one. Ooh, actually, I just noticed something, Elise. There's actually a really good J play here that I had totally overlooked just because it's impossible for me to see this word.
Ah, yes, I see it now. Yeah, GJU. That's a really tough 3 to spot. It just is not that similar to many other English words, but that goes over quad, doubling the J twice.
Yeah, I think he has to play that. He can't wait like if Pax is indeed Alec's only out. Sammy can't wait. He can't like block Alec's out because Alec will just then play op, probably blocking Gaju. So I think probably better for Sammy to just take the points now and just let Alec go out for his piddly score. I'm just going to do a quick look. Yeah, those are the only outs Alec has. So you could try to draw it out and make a fun end game puzzle out of it. But I feel like Sammy might just take the points here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess he could play Gauge. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce that, but Gauje through that A in Geraniol. That's another way to get rid of the J here.
Yeah, that would be probably his best way to block Alec's out. Alec does have something like Zeps in response, although maybe he gets C stuck after that. The C is a little bit of a problem on this board, so it gets a little bit complicated.
Yeah, this is a tough one.
And as we mentioned earlier, spread is a consideration here, so it is worth it for Sammy to spend some time trying to figure out his optimal end game. I guess I would caution Sammy specifically that it will be very hard for these two commentators to come up with anything to talk about for the next 14 minutes, if that's how long you take making your end game play.
So interestingly, if Sammy plays Gauge and then, let's see, Alec can't go out, but if he plays Zeps, Sammy actually has an out with his U, T, and I. He can play Untin in between Finder and Geraniol.
Ooh, yeah, that would be a nice little sequence here. We see Sammy going for something totally different. He's not blocking the out, and he's also not playing Jew, which is a very hard place to look on this board. So slightly suboptimal endgame for Sammy, but just results in a little difference of spread here. As Alec goes out, it gets a few points from Sammy. The final score is going to be 335 for Alec, 497 for Sammy, almost a 500-point game. So a very big win for Sammy, much needed here. He's going to be probably in first place after this win.
Yeah, wow, what a game. I mean, Sammy found some excellent plays, but Alec did a great job too, just trying to make chances and come back.
So let's see if they've got any post-mortem for us. Silence.
We started to play Artal at first here. And if I had played Artal and drawn the same things, I would have had Retailer.
Retailer away.
Here.
Okay.
So Tao.
So when you played Trail was how many? 19?
It was 23.
Trail was 23 at that point. I had. That's
Yeah.
when I played ZA.
I played Trail, then you played Windway.
Okay.
And I played Tao and
I had the Z when I played this though.
Ankit Z.
Yeah. Because I saw this spot. And I knew that spot was there. I mean, if you didn't play, I was going to play Z as ZEDAS.
Yikes. I almost missed tail use.
Yeah, I could block that. I just wanted to play Finder in the game. I could just play DIF. Yeah. But
I
then,
figure a play here would block both
Yeah,
this
just-
and the end.
if I do stuff like this, if you just bingo right here, so I'm just taking my points. You
Yeah.
never know. We're done with this?
So I think that'll put you in first.
Yeah, I'm gonna spread.
All right, so we got a little win there. Sammy with some creative thinking involving the Z. In fact, he was going to hit Zetas for a bajillion points if Alec hadn't made his play of Relace. So nicely done by Sammy, puts him in first place at the 2025 Scrabble Players Championship, put on by NASPA, National North American Scrabble Players Association. If anybody out there watching is in the North American area and wants to get involved with tournament Scrabble, NASPA is a great place to do that. Running tournaments all across the country, making sure that we all have many chances to play the game that we love.